Hi, I'm Matteo Frana. Welcome to the third part of the React Bricks demo series. In this part, we'll see the code for a Next.js project scaffolded from the CLI, and we'll see the code for a content block. So let's open our VS Code, and here you see the folder structure for this Next.js project, which is the same project that we saw in part 1 and part 2. So you see that there is this pages folder, which is the pages folder from Next.js, and you see that you have these slug and index that are the front end where the website lives. The slug in particular is the catch-all page that will get all the pages that are not the home, and you have this admin folder where the admin interface lives, and so you see that in the admin you have upsetting, editor and playground that we saw in the demo of the editor. So let's see what's inside this page here on the front end, and you see that this is a component that uses the page viewer component from React Bricks, and this is the component that will show the your content on the front end, so in read-only mode. You see that the page viewer gets this page attribute here, this page prop, and the page prop comes from the get static props of Next.js. So in this case we are using static site generation, and you see that we use this fetch page function from React Bricks to fetch the page content given the slug and the API key. The page is passed to the props of this page here, and so the page viewer can render your content. Inside the admin folder, you see that these pages are just thin wrappers around React Bricks provided component. So for example, you have this editor component here which renders the editor, and in the playground you see that it's the same thing with the playground component. You see that there is always this admin component here, and it provides the authentication for the admin interface. Another interesting folder to look at is the React Bricks folder. Here is where there is the configuration for React Bricks. If I open the config file, you see that you have the credentials which come from the .env file, and they are already configured for you by the CLI, and you have the logo, and you have other environment variables that are needed so that React Bricks is compatible with the Next.js router, the Gatsby router, etc. And you have these page types and bricks, which are interesting. Page types are the page type of React Bricks. So if I open this file, you see that by default we have this you have just one page type, which name is page, but I can create another page type, for example product. The plural name is product for the interface. I can choose if by default the content is locked, so let's say that it's locked, and that the page status by default is draft. And I can also provide a default content for all the pages of this type. For example, I can say that the default content for a product contains a hero unit, and then it can contain a product details block. Since I set the default as locked, our editor users will be able to change the content, but not the structure of these blocks. So I can set a predefined structure for a product page, and our editor will be able just to change the content, but not to add new blocks or change the order of these blocks. So let's leave just the hero unit and save. And now let's see instead these bricks here. These bricks are the set of content blocks that we have, and they are in this bricks folder. The index exports the bricks, and you see that the bricks is an array that is made up of this website bricks, which come from the React Bricks UI package, which is an open source set of pre-made bricks, so that you can get up and started very quickly and look at these blocks as a reference if you need to create some similar blocks. And there is this hero unit block that comes from the my hero unit file. This is an example of a custom block. When you start using React Bricks, eventually you will delete these React Bricks UI blocks, and you will have many bricks with your own component inside the bricks folder. Let's see what's inside the my hero unit file. Okay, this is a React component. A React brick is just a React component. The type here is not a React functional component, but a brick from React Bricks. So you see that the interface is just a React functional component with a schema static prop. And well, inside the JSX you see that we are using the visual editing component exported by React Bricks. So you have an image, a text, a rich text. We could also have a repeater to have a repeater of other kind of blocks. And you have this component, and on this component we added the schema static property, which configures this block. So you have the name, the label for the interface when you add a new block. You have a function that returns the default props. So when I add a new hero unit block, these are the props that it will have by default. Of course, I will be able to change this text and title. And then you have the side edit props, which is an array of props. In this case, you see that we have just one prop, which is the padding, and it is of type select with this option, big or small. Let's see this component in our editor. So let's open the editor and let's add a new block. You see that here you have all the blocks from React Bricks UI, and the last one is our custom hero unit. You see that this block has an image. Since we didn't provide the default for the image, it has the default placeholder. It has a text, which is this title, and a rich text where we can also set bold, highlight, code, etc. And on the right you see that there is our padding side edit prop, which is of type select and which changes the padding. How does it work? If we go back to the code, you see that this padding prop here is used in our component because we get the padding from the props, and based on the padding, if it is big or small, we apply a different tailwind class. And you see that in the rich text we defined the allowed features, where we have the 5 button that we saw in the rich text, and we can add other rich text features if we want. For example, we could add also order list or an order list. And you see that we can provide our own render function. For example, here you see the render code function. If we want to change the way that the bold is rendered, we can say that render bold is a React function, a component that takes props and which returns, let's say, a b tag with the children, so props dot children, and we apply a class on this b. For example, we want to apply a text pink 500 font black from Tailwind. Now let's save, and if we go back to our interface, we see that now here I applied both the highlight and bold code. Let's remove the highlight so that it's easier to understand. You see that now you have the bold rendered by our new render function. If I apply bold here, you see that it has a black font weight and it is pink. Okay, now let's change, for example, this image here, and let's make it a circle, like an avatar. If I change the class name here on the image, I can say that it has an 8 of 20 and it is rounded full, which is the Tailwind class that says that it is circle. And you see that as I change the content, I see it reflected in the admin interface, and of course it will be reflected on the front-end website too. Okay, as a last thing, let's add a new sidebar prop. For example, I want the user to be able to choose if the image should be a square or a circle, and so I add a new side edit prop. Let's call it is rounded, so the label could be rounded image, and the type is just a boolean, which will render a checkbox. I don't need any select options. Let's provide a default for this prop, for example false, and now let's use this is rounded prop I added to my interface. I take it from the props, and now this rounded full class name here can be applied only where the is rounded prop is true. So let's say that if we have is rounded true, I apply the rounded full class, otherwise I don't apply it. Okay, let's save, then I refresh, and you see that now there is this rounded image prop here in the sidebar, and if I click on rounded image, the class is applied. This is the way that you can define a content block, use React Bricks text, rich text, image and repeater component to have the visual editing. You see that I can, of course, I can change this text here. I can apply styles as you saw, and I can click on the image and upload an image. So you have this visual editing interface, and you can define your own props that are editable in the right sidebar, and use them inside of your component to apply styles. Well, I think that this is a first look at how you can create your own bricks, your own content blocks using React Bricks. And so Thank you. Bye bye.